Well, good morning. I assume it's good afternoon, or maybe it's evening. I don't know. Good morning, wherever you are. Good afternoon. I'm Graham Moore. I'm Certified Master of the Leadership Challenge, and I'm with my very good, wise friends, Mohammed Shukri in Bahrain and Phoebe Francis in Dubai. I'm Graham Moore, and I'm not in either of those places. And I'm pleased that we are all three together, and hopefully we've got some lots of people interested in learning as we want to share what we know about leadership in a practical sense for leaders everywhere. So, gentlemen, do you know what we're going to talk about today? I
Yes,
thought
we
you
knew. Yes, we knew.
knew. You knew what we're going to talk about. I
Yeah,
thought,
because we don't leave anything for assumptions.
well, because as long as you do, yeah. Look, I'm being a bit silly, aren't I? But what we want to talk about is leaderships, leaderships, leadership or leaders and assumptions.
Mhm.
So, what's an assumption? Someone tell me what it is. I assume you all know. Joke.
I want to bring this point like assumptions are unseen narratives which we create and which we keep in our mind, thinking, okay, like I assume Graham might have known that, or I assume Muhammad have understood that. So this is the narrative which goes in our mind. And what I see is leadership demands seeing with fresh eyes and enabling others, which means questioning our own unseen assumptions as well as the people around us.
Can I share a story to define what's assumption?
Oh,
So one day my manager called me in the office and he said, Mohammed, lately you haven't been clocking in um, on time. Okay, the system says that. What's happening, etc. Blah blah blah. And he gave me some advice, and it will affect my promotion if I don't watch out for coming late. It's just a minute or two, but the system catches it, and so that was years back. So when I left his office, guess what? My reaction was, my impression was it. Okay, he is helping me. He wants me to. No, no. I said, okay. I know why this manager did this to me. He wants an excuse not to promote me because he is thinking of his other friend in the department. He wants to promote him. I knew it. I knew it. Okay. Until when I fixed my behavior anyway, because I want the promotion badly, I was given the promotion and he gladly, did not obstruct it. And then my assumption was wrong. So,
yeah.
see, the problem with assumption is it is not an assumption to you. It's your reality. You believe it is true. You know it. You say, I knew it until you discover it was wrong. So the problem with assumptions, we don't know they are assumptions. We think they are reality. We always think our spouses are doing this because they meant it, they all the time, or our children, our friends. But most of them actually are assumptions until they are not. And this is why we are here today with leaders.
A very good example in regard to the work situation and your promotion and what you thought he was doing and which he wasn't doing because you assumed. But you also touched on another area where assumptions are made, and that is in our relationships with not just our work colleagues, but our partner and our children. And, this might sound a little bit of a stretch, but, it's often been in a counseling context where people marry people are seeking counseling and in that conversation where there's with a counsellor, there's some honesty being shared, hopefully, where there comes out, and this might seem like an extreme example, but I'm assuring you it's not, where they always, every year, they go to the same place for the holiday every year. Let's just say it's to the beach. And during this counselling, the husband will say, and every year we have to go to the beach for the holiday. And the wife says, What? I thought you loved the beach. When you got married, you said, oh, I'd love to take you to the beach. So over the next 35 years, they all went to the beach every year, and he went along because he thought she wanted to go there. He assumed that she wanted it. The assumptions both sides. Oh boy. And I'm sure that people who are listening to it who are married or in a relationship, even if it's children, you will be able to identify situations where one or other of the partner makes an assumption. And this is where it starts. Phoebe.
I know this creates a curious question within me. Why do you think, Graham, and again, Mohammed, that assumptions are so pervasive in our organizations and in our daily life? What may be the reasons for that?
Now we have
Well,
a yeah. Graham, go ahead, Graham.
this relates to I'm going to explain this in relation to an activity that I do in a Leadership Challenge workshop. And one of the things that I say at the start of this debrief on the workshop is we must make assumptions. And let me give you a specific example. If we walk into an office and we're going to sit down at let's just say it's a meeting room, we don't do a stress test on the chair that we're going to sit on to ensure our own safety because we've never sat on this chair before. We assume that the chair is going to hold us up. We must do that. When we're going outside, we assume that because it's a fine day, that the air is clean to breathe. We assume so much. In the next 5 minutes, we might make assumptions about certain behaviors or things that happen. Because if we wanted to check and verify and validate every little thing, like, is the chair going to hold me up, then we would go crazy. The mind would not be able to cope with all these questions that we should, if we were going to question that we should be, the mind would go, I can't cope because we naturally make assumptions, but we overdo that. I assume that people are going to meet me for a meeting at a time that we've set. And I think you gentlemen know this, that if I said we're going to meet at a certain time, that's it. We absolutely will. I guarantee I will be there unless I tell you otherwise. So it's absolutely okay because of the behavior and the relationship that's developed, that you understand that if I say that's the time, I'm there. I don't need a reminder. I don't need to check in and see. That's it. But with other people, we might need to remind them, or we might need to say, are you still okay for that meeting? Oh, look, actually, I should have told you that I've got something else that's just happened that's really, really important. You're right. It's more important than me. No. See, so checking in it validates the relationship. And if it's done the right way, it strengthens the relationship. But there are often times when we assume that the other colleague is going to do something that could be critical. I assume that you had the contract signed. No, I thought you were doing that. So why, coming back to your question, I'll throw it back to you, Phoebe. Why do you think this lack of, or this ability, or not, sorry, not ability, this need to assume is so pervasive? Why do you think?
Can I just add something also? What you just said, Graham, of course, in every corner of our lives, we have to assume that when I press the doorknob, the door will open, all right? And when I go into that washroom and I want to use the soap and I press the dispenser, soap has to come. This is how actually we live life, and life becomes easier. Otherwise, you're right. We shouldn't validate everything. Another name for this is trust the process. And that's how life becomes more convenient, when we trust the process. The issue is when there are people behind it. When you press that soap dispenser and it was not refilled because someone didn't do that, all right? So when we come to the someone, it's people, not the process. Our assumptions go beyond processes to people, but people are not processes. People are people. You drive on a road where overtaking is not allowed and you assume no one will overtake, but people do. All right. So this is where we get disappointed with the assumptions. I mean, the last time you ordered something online, I mean, through phone, you don't assume. If she didn't repeat the order, you will tell her, "Can you repeat the order, please?" All right, because you don't want to leave it for assumptions. So I think this pervasiveness is actually absolutely true. It covers objects, processes, but also people. And this is where we get stuck, especially as leaders.
So I'll let Pastor Phoebe in a moment, but when you talk about what we're doing on the road when we're driving, we're making assumptions all the time when we're driving highway or wherever else. And I was driving on a road that I drive on most days here, and I assumed as I was driving, I assumed that there was no police checking the speed limit of cars that were passing through. I assumed that of course, there would be no police. I got a fine, over $300 for speeding. I had made an assumption that it wasn't a policeman checking the speed, and I was wrong. There was a policeman there, and the Department of Traffic sent me a photograph of the registration plate of the car saying, "You were going too fast." But so it was wrong of me to make an assumption that there were no police checking on the speed of traffic, and it cost me $300. There we go. But in the workplace, we have to have, as a team leader, we have to, I'm sure these words are absolutely on Phoebe's lips right now. We have to model the way. And if the leader says, "I will do something," he will do that. So that builds trust, and trust is credibility. And the team leaders then, the team members should do that back to him, so that I can pretty well avoid making assumptions. If I ask someone to do something, I'm going to be believing that they will do it, or they will tell me that they can't do it, or there's a problem that's going to hold them up. So if I, as a leader, say, "I want you to do this. Can you do this in the allotted time?" "Yes, I can." "Great. Let me know if there's a problem." "Terrific." And it's done. I assume that then it is going to happen. Otherwise, he will tell me. But I need to set up the relationship with the team members that I'm not, if I ask for something or say something, that I will believe that they're going to do it. And if they're not going to do it, then we've got to make sure that they tell me. Otherwise, there is no trust, because they're not doing what they said they were going to do. Phoebe, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think one aspect which is coming to my mind is, we all want to be in a safe space mentally. So I think we do assumptions as part of that process too, to be feeling safe that I have done that. And sometimes questioning those assumptions is where curiosity gets generated. And as you mentioned, Graham, like I'm thinking sometimes my father reminds me on various things during our growing childhood days. And that was a process in which he was trying to reinforce some of the messages. And that I link with the model the way. For example, how can, sometimes we forget what, so don't assume. He's trying to make sure that we are doing that so that we may not be in a more costly situation. So again, that is also challenging the process with us. And this creates, what I see is a curiosity element, from a leadership perspective. This is generating curiosity, which help us to explore the assumptions which we hold dear. And also sometimes, the question of what have you changed your mind on? So that also links to what assumptions have you understood as wrong as you grow up. So in workplace also sometimes, and in most cases, challenging the process, I also link it with challenging the assumptions.
Yes. Can I also add that asking for clarity is key? I remember Marshall Goldsmith, when he visited Bahrain. I mean, I attended several programs, but there is one line he keeps repeating: the feed forward method, the feed forward method. And one example he gave, which stuck with me, is asking the other party, individual, whether it's at home or at work, um, assume your role. Sorry, not assume. I mean, remember your role. If you're the dad, for example, if you're a dad and you're asking your son, so you pose this question: how can I be a better dad? You exactly say that. How can I be a better dad? Don't say, am I a good dad? Because they will say, yes, you are. But when you say, how can I be a better dad? They will add a few things, all right? They will strive to think of that tiny little thin part which you are not aware of. And this is where you get feed forward for something you assumed you knew it. Okay? So always asking about clarity. How can I be a better leader? How can I be a better leader? You ask your team, and they should tell you actually if you have trust and you have a good ambience or environment anyway. Yeah, over to
We
you.
have a in the LPI, and it's related to very much the same, where it says, what can I do to, is there anything that I'm doing that is affecting your performance? And the other one that I encourage in terms of self coaching is the leader ask the team, is there anything I can do to improve? So, which is exactly what you're saying that Marshall Goldsmith said. We can't assume that the team all love me because they turn up every day. We've got to have conversations with them that are sometimes not comfortable, but in the long run, they are beneficial because we're going to learn from them. But also, just coming back a little bit on assumptions that we might make in a corporate setting, where we assume that the person knows what to do. We assume that they have checked there is a budget for this. We can assume that we sometimes assume that they got the resources to do it. And sometimes there's a huge gap. So we as leaders should perhaps be saying when there's a new task or a new project or a new development, to say to the key players, okay, so have we got everything covered? Do we all know what's required? Have we got the resources? Do you have any questions about what's going on? Have we got this covered? Is everything in place? Are we all clear? So often in the work environment, we assume that everything is all clear with everybody because we're in a hurry. And that's not a good thing because if we might be in a hurry, but we can soon be crashing into the wall if everybody does not know everything that's required.
That's so valuable. I just want to underscore the part which everything is in place. Are we ready? See, many leaders, they ask the wrong question, the right question in the wrong way. Like, have you prepared the plan? Instead, you are now pointing at him, and now they are in a circle defending. How dare you? You mean I didn't do my job? You always want to point out. This is how they think. You want to point out that I'm lazy, I'm late, I procrastinate. No, you don't ask him like this. Is the plan ready? You're now talking about the plan. You're not talking about the person, whether they did the plan or not, all right? Or, for example, do we have the list for the event? Do we have the minutes of the meeting for the meeting? Don't ask, have you prepared the minutes of the meeting? Okay, this is what some, sorry, some dads do when they don't parent well. Okay, they point at, have you done, have, so don't point at the person, point at, just talk about the stuff, okay? The menu, the whatever. Okay, over to you.
Libby.
Yeah, I think often one question which I have seen leaders asking in organizational meeting is, what am I missing? What am I missing? So that is one of the question which often trigger a bit of conversation. And another way is, which I always want leaders to do is seek to understand the context and bring curiosity. And I want also leaders to keep a frame in their mind, like assume you don't know.
Yes.
Assume you don't know. And resist the temptation to solve or fix. Because quite often leaders tried to jump in to solve and fix. And, one more aspect, which is, welcome any disturbance. And that is an indicator. If we see people are quiet, people are thinking, that is an opportunity to again ask, what am I missing? And this will bring in a lot of assumptions to the table.
Yeah. Can I just go back to one of the points that you made before we then hear from Phoebe, from Mohammed? The question should also be, have we got everything covered? Is there anything we haven't got that we do need to have? Is there anything you haven't told me? Are you confident that you know everything that has to be done? Okay, good. Let's proceed. So there are some important questions that need to be asked, because if we assume that the person we're dealing with, a team member or other, has got everything, they might have assumed that we've brought it. I thought you were bringing lunch. No, I thought you were bringing lunch. I've just brought bottles of water. Well, that's no good. So this is about, obviously, communication. This is about communicating, where we all understand what we need to know. And sometimes I assume that people know, and that can lead to big problems because of it. I thought you knew. No, I didn't know how to do that. Mohammed.
I think by default, it's, needless to say, by default, if leaders go and act like leaders in all aspects, they use leadership as a relationship. Okay, when you have a relationship as a leader, let alone the 5 practices, but a relationship, a lot of assumptions just evaporate automatically. They don't exist, and the residue is less, which you can just clarify. So you do your job as a leader, have a good relationship as a leader. More 90% of the assumptions won't be there. Only the 10%, which are technical, you can handle them, and they are there in every workplaces. But if you don't have a relationship, and you don't model the way, and you don't challenge the process, you don't enable them, etc., brace for a lot of assumptions, and some of them are, catastrophic.
Yeah, absolutely.
One aspect which I just want to bring in this world of AI is, in the AI, you are in autopilot. But now, one of the key leadership competency which we want is to inspire a shared vision. And in that process, we have to move from autopilot to awareness. How am I creating awareness where I am taking my team? And this is basically based on, by asking questions, like ask for feedback, checking progress regularly, and allow challenge. And this is what the competencies which AI doesn't have. And that is what humans bring in. And we often say that when you are able to understand the emotions of the people around you, you are in demand in a world of AI too. So from a leadership competency, I just want to bring that autopilot, move from autopilot to move awareness. And for that, ask question. I have a question which is triggering in my mind right at this point of time. Graham, Mohammed, how can leaders build a culture where feedback, clarity, and courageous conversations are the norm?
Muhammad used the word in his last few words before you started speaking, and that is the relationship. The stronger the relationship is, the less likely there will be assumptions. The stronger the relationship is, the more the difficult conversations, the awkwardness will just disappear, because we can have open, free, authentic conversations with people without feeling that he's assumed incorrectly, or he's getting information wrong, or I don't want to say something that might offend him, or whatever. It comes back always to relationships, in my view. Everything you've just questioned. If the relationship is there, everything else in that area just dissipates.
And if I may add, that Steve R. Covey, the author of the 7 Habits, has another name for it, which is the emotional bank account. You have to have in the deposit a lot of actions and gestures, and your behavior in the emotional bank account is a deposit where always people, when they withdraw positivity. In other words, if you are a true leader, and they always expect you to be there for them. For example, whatever we said in so many episodes and whatever is there in the book also. All right. If this is the norm, and they will always expect you to be so, even if you deviate as an exception. But the rule that you are creating a rule. So it's called the positive assumption. So they will always assume, for example, you come in the office and you're always saying good morning and you're always checking on people. One day you don't, okay? Due to some emergency or something, when you come there and you don't smile, you even frown, what will your team say about you? Will they say, there he goes again, he is mad at us? No, they will go to the bank account, which they are used to, and they will say, he has never done this before. He must be having an issue outside. It's not him. So they are having a good assumption of you. In other words, they are they are expecting well of you, because as a leader, you consistently added positive actions, and you made them used to, accustomed to a leader who is always there. So switch the negative assumptions with good assumptions by having what we call relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
I think this also linked to the enabling others to act from the leadership challenge. How as a leader, I am enabling others to come out with questions, come out with clarifications, come out with doubts, come out with uncharted territories where they have something lingering in their mind. So we create a psychologically safe environment as leaders. And I think that brings out curiosity at every level in organization. And probably that will help to question the assumptions which we hold, whether it is positive assumptions or whether it is negative assumptions.
There are often 3 little words that are used. I think it's 3, 4 words. 4 words. When something goes wrong, or when there is an issue, that the person who knew the information will then say, oh, actually that's 5 words. Oh, I thought you knew. No, we don't want any I thought you knew. No, we need to be able to, the relationship to be there for me to, if I know there's a problem, I've got to tell you, or I've got to be able to say, did you know this has occurred? No. Okay, let me tell you about it. Right. So this is, just keeps coming back to the relationship. Gentlemen, I really believe it's time to wrap this conversation up. And I assume that you have learned a few things. I want to make this one statement, and I've been really pleased with what you have each contributed today. I just want to say this, that assumptions are the shortcut in communication and behavior that can often lead to very expensive repair work. Anybody else, of course, has got some wisdom to add to that.
I just want to say that the assumptions happen on cognitive level, but also on behavior level. There are things I assume you know. There are things I assume you understand. This is cognitive. You cannot just go and open the other person's head. And for that, we talked how you can clarify. But there are things also on the behavior level, I assume you will do this. I assume when I come there, I see the report on my desk. So and these are on behavior level. So you can clarify all these things by having a relationship, of course. Early, avoid these things by having good practice, the 5 practices. But when they happen, also you can still clarify and remove the wrong assumptions and replace them with good ones.
With the facts, yes. Phoebe.
One of my thought process here is assumptions shape your leadership reality. Challenge them to change your outcomes. Also, just to add on, assumptions are invisible until examined.
Oh, very good.
Unquestioned assumptions about people, problems, or processes are often the biggest barriers to effective leadership and organizational change.
Well, I'm going to assume that everybody who's listening to us today has learned at least one thing in regard to assumptions, so that there's no more problems. There will be less and less assumptions that have led to problems. Gentlemen, I thank you for your wisdom as always. And I'm going to assume that we will be back together again next week. Same time, same place. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great week. I'm going to assume it's going to be a successful week for both of you.
Thank you, everyone. And we are assuming that you are subscribing to our channel, commenting on our channel, and hope to continue the engagement with all of you again. See you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Phoebe.
Thank you.